Jim Savage. I'm going to be your moderator for today. I'm actually the new Wisconsin State CPS coordinator, so I'm honored to join your ranks. I'm also the healthcare and injury prevention representative for the National Child Passenger Safety Board and the current vice chair. Just a reminder, attendees should not participate in the forum if you are operating a motor vehicle. We'll be recording the presentation, and you can listen and watch the recording at your safest convenience later. So we have 4 speakers today who will be talking about 3 different programs in Utah, Louisiana, and Indiana. And they'll be presenting examples and ideas of CPS outreach to healthcare partners that you can implement in your states as well. The first presenter that we have today will be Dr. Joe O'Neill. Dr. Joe is a professor of clinical pediatrics at Indiana University School of Medicine and the Department of Pediatrics Section of Development Pediatrics at Riley Children's Hospital for children at Indiana University Health. Glad I don't have to say that 3 times. Chair of the Injury Prevention Committee for the Indiana chapter of the American Academy of Pediatrics. He's the co-medical director of the Automotive Safety Program at Riley Hospital, which for those of us who work with children with special healthcare needs know very well. His research interests are public health, injury prevention, motor vehicle occupant protection, and safe transportation of children with disabilities. He's involved in the assessment and development of community initiatives for injury prevention, and past and current projects include program development to reduce teen motor vehicle crashes, evaluation of injury-related infant mortality, and reduction of injuries among children. One thing that he shared with us while we were waiting to start was that he's a very good friend of Rudy from Notre Dame, if everyone remembers that movie. And I'm going to introduce the rest of the presenters as well, so we don't have to take a break in between. Our other presenters are Ashley Fogle and Danielle Morris, and they are pediatric physical therapists with Our Lady of the Lake Children's Hospital in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and they both hold doctoral degrees in physical therapy. They're certified child passenger safety technicians, and they're the only 2 safe travel for all children instructors in Louisiana. They serve as the Louisiana Passenger Safety Task Force coordinators for travel with children with special needs. They provide ongoing local and national education on child passenger safety for children with special needs, and they're here to share their passion for teaching therapists and medical professionals about child passenger safety and how to inspire you to do the same. What we learned while we were waiting was that Danielle was actually on The Price is Right back when she was much younger. And Ashley didn't give us anything exciting to share, so I'm just going to say that at one point Ashley was a circus clown. How does that?
That's great. Thank you, Jim.
And
I thought I heard that before.
It could be true, you never know. And our 4th presenter, not necessarily in that order, is Kerilee Burton. She graduated from Brigham Young University in Public Health and Family Life and is a certified health education specialist and child life specialist. She's been a child passenger safety professional since the early 1990s, back when we just had the bucket car seat. And she developed her county's first car seat program at a local health department when she was in California. She's been Utah's state child passenger safety coordinator for 12 years, is currently the CPS and teen driving program manager at the Utah Highway Safety Office and works with special needs families at Primary Children's Hospital. She's an instructor for both the National CPS Technician Certification and also Safe Travel for All Children courses. And she'll give us details on a program that she's worked on. Safe Seats, Save Lives is Utah's pediatric outreach education program that was developed to update, inform, encourage, and inspire pediatricians and family practice doctors in the field of teaching them in the field of child passenger safety. Kerilee told us she was raised in a reception center for weddings and such, so Kerilee is a professional wedding crasher. So we just ask as we go along today, if you have any questions, please enter them in the chat box and we will address them at the end of the presentations. If we do run out of time, we'll be sure to try and follow up with your questions afterwards. So Dr. Joe, I think we're ready.
Fantastic. Can you hear me all pretty well? Good. All right. I want to thank everyone. I was scanning through the participant list, and I recognize a lot of names, some local, some far away. And I'm really glad to have an opportunity to sit down and share with you. In this case, I'm sort of wearing a different hat, and I'm going to be speaking as a medical educator. And one of the things that we always have that challenge, and when I speak to child passenger safety technicians around the country, they say, how do I get a hold of that guy in the office to make sure he knows that I'm out here? And so in my mind, that's on me to try to help educate my colleagues on the importance of child passenger safety technicians and how to reach out to them. So a little bit of what I'm going to be talking about today is how I introduce this topic, and then how do we teach child passenger safety at Riley Hospital at Indiana University Department of Pediatrics. Next slide, please. So I have nothing to disclose, and I'm not going to talk about anything too crazy. As I get started, there's a lot of folks, those of us who are child passenger safety technicians, we know that we don't operate in a vacuum. We have so many friends and colleagues that we work with that it's a wonderful world in which we share. But there are some folks who have been very instrumental, especially in this talk. There's a name here that everybody knows, Dr. Marilyn Bull, who is currently on vacation. So we wish her a wonderful time. Raquel Dennis, I want you to keep this name in mind. She is a pediatrician who is very, very passionate about child passenger safety. And she's going to be a force to be reckoned with. I think she's going to be an incredible addition. Also, a lot of our colleagues out at the American Academy of Pediatrics, Bonnie Koziel, Ben Hoffman, and all the others that we have worked with. And finally, I'd like to thank Tammy for inviting me today. Okay, next. So when we talk about resident medical education, we're usually talking about what goes on in the doctor's office. And so in the doctor's office, you will see that you will have a meeting with your doctor, and they're going to start talking to you about how little Joey is doing. And as you go through the course of things, he's going to start asking, how's the car seat? Do you have locks on the cabinets? Are guns stored safely? Are the poisons kept out of reach? All those different things, because those are what we expect that, the old saying is, if a child can do it, a child can get in trouble doing it. And so anticipatory guidance is what we call coaching, how we're coaching our families to think ahead and on an age appropriate scale, try to tell parents what to keep an open eye for. And so this for us is a great opportunity to bring in these important safety topics, talk about family relationships, community services, engage the family in the community, in the neighborhood. So these are all the things that we try to do during that 15, 20-minute visit with your pediatrician. Next slide. So now, when we talk about this, we want to make sure that we cover child passenger safety, because this is one of the leading causes of death and injury for our children. And in order to make sure that this is effective, what we do, we try to cover certain points. Is this timely? And we're getting to a point in the child's development and growth where the family may want to, heaven forbid, turn that 1-year-old child forward facing. Age-based, we know that as children get older and bigger, they move into different seats. We want to make sure we tailor it to the child and to the family. We want to respect the parents' autonomy. We want to address community resources. We want to be culturally sensitive and appropriate. Boy, that really sounds like how we trained as child passenger safety technicians. A lot of this is right in that same line. And it's the basic principle that underlines everything we do as CPSTs is that all children should have access to the proper resources for safe transportation. Go ahead. So this is a back one, please. Great. Now, our residents go through 3 years of training and more if they're going to a subspecialty. Now, they are exposed to child passenger safety pretty much all the time because at Riley, especially on my services, they will, they know to ask, what's your car seat? All our nurses on the floor are asking, well, how did you get here? What type of car seat do you have? In our newborn nursery, all our families are queried about how they're going to get their child home and where's the car seat. In our NICU, doing the screening tests for preemies and low birth weight. So they're being inundated with this all the time. But how do they formally learn what's right? Now, in the past, we gave them a lecture and so to show them the seats and said, well, okay, go ahead, work on it. But, as we came to realize that's really not a good way to teach residents and teach adult learners. So we know that we wanted to take a little extra time. So residents will get exposed specifically to child passenger safety during things that we call their continuity clinics. That's where they have their own patients and work with a supervising pediatrician or the community pediatrics rotation. Every one of our residents have to complete this by the time they graduate. For example, from January to this June, we've had over 50 residents take this particular class. Now, in the past, it was more we were spoon feeding them. And so Marilyn and I decided to have a little fun with this class. And we wanted to push these guys a little bit. So we came up with this way of teaching where we're going to assign them a case, a child, and we'll talk about that in a second. We give them a pre-class exercise, then we give them a lecture, and then we have them practice. Next slide. So what do we do? Okay, so they'll get an email from one of my assistants that says, hey, you're going to be taking the child passenger safety class. Before you do that, you must, and we underline, must choose a child and study up so you can teach it. So they select a child from the list below, and it's a pretty nice range of we selected it so we go through all the different types of seats. And there can't be any double ups. Now, sometimes we'll take 6 or 7 residents at a time. And so we will see some duplication. So they do get to work together. So they have to pick a child. They have to decide what type of car seat. They have to go to the car seat manufacturer's website. They have to pull up the instruction manual and the video. They have to watch that, take that, and we have practice seats here. They can take the seat and then they can practice it in their car and see how well they do. And then we meet in class and then they have to demonstrate the correct installation and placement of the child in the seat. Next. So, and all 3 of us who give this lecture are certified child passenger safety technicians. And there are 3 of us, Dr. Bowl, Dr. Dennis, and myself. And this is about a 2.5-hour lecture. So we have to keep things moving because we have a lot of things to talk about. Next. And so what we do is at the beginning of the class, we will give a 45-minute lecture on child passenger safety. We talk about the need for it. We talk about the different types of car seats. We talk a lot about why rear facing for infants is so important. We talk about special needs seats. We go into the child passenger, the screening test for premature and low birth weight infants. We talk about transitioning from one type of car seat to the other. And then at the end of the lecture, we basically have the residents teach each other. They give their scenario of the child. Then they say what seat they chose. And then we talk about location in the vehicle, orientation of the seat, how do they anchor the seat, how do they and install it, and how do they place the child into the seat with the appropriate harness or seat belt structure. And so all five will take their particular seat, put it on a captain's chair that we have, a mobile chair, as you can see there, and they and they demonstrate how to do it, and then they all work on putting it together. Next slide. So I would say this has been a game changer for our residents. So at the end of the class, I just sort of look at them and say, well, what do you think, guys? And they sort of look at me like a deer in the headlights. And I will say that, they really get it. At the end of the class, they're just, despite how much information we give them, they're just saying, wow, this is a lot. We really have to know what we're talking about to be able to do this correctly. And I say, yes, that is correct. But I got a great news for you. You have a lot of friends out there that are willing to help you. And so then I go and I show them how to get onto the cert.cpst and all the different resources, how to find permanent fitting stations, how to find car seat clinics, and for Indiana, certainly how to get a hold of the automotive safety program at Riley Hospital. So that's a big relief for these guys, because it is good for them to know that there are people out there who can help them. So what is the feedback that we've gotten? Almost to a person, they all appreciate being able to have a practice and have at it. Because they just say, I never knew there was, I just thought it was a car seat. And so they come away with a greater appreciation, about what parents go through. Manuals aren't easy to read. Videos sometimes can be confusing, and you really don't learn it until you do it. And so they are able to go into their offices and share how important child passenger safety is and who to reach out to in the community to help a family get a car seat, and to get it to use correctly. And in doing so, we hope that they can integrate this child passenger safety information into their repertoire of things that they want to talk about, and so that they can do that in a timely and effective manner. And with that, I will ask if there are any questions. Next slide. And that would be it. Good.
Thank you, Dr. Joe. And we'll go ahead and please type your questions that you have in the chat, and we will address them after all of the presenters have presented. So it will be as much of a surprise to you as it is to me as to who the next presenters are. And the winner is
Danielle and Ashley. Please go ahead and share your slides. Come on down.
Hey, y'all. All right. That was a great presentation. A nice act to follow. So we are so grateful to be here today, to have this opportunity to share our passion. For those of you who have met us, we're very passionate about what we do. And we have a particular passion for not only child passenger safety, but our outreach to all the medical professionals, physical therapists, occupational therapists, nurses, residents, physicians within our state. So how did we get here? 2008 was the beginning of our beautiful friendship. I had just moved back from Germany, and there was this really firecracker nurse advocate here who voluntold a group of about 10, 12 therapists to go to this child passenger safety course. And like many of you, I remember thinking like, why do we have to be here for 4 days? Like, what are we going to learn? What does this have to do with me? And I personally thought this had nothing to do with me as a physical therapist and what I did. But I have to tell you, as I sat there, and my heart began to sink, because I had never, ever thought about how the children that I serve came to the clinic or came to our hospital, right? I mean, as PTs, we're specialists in positioning and seating and mobility for kids with disabilities, acute injuries, chronic illnesses. So it is so relevant to what we do. I had always deferred my questions about car seats to vendors. I mean, I'll admit it. I'd say order it from them. They would drop it off at their doorstep. I wish now I could go back to every one of those families and pay them a visit, but I'm sure their children are grown by now. But this was not something that we learned in school. We don't learn it in therapy school. I'm so happy what's happening in the residence program, because it's not getting taught in the health professions. I even remember in the 90s, some of the therapists were modifying car seats. And so Ashley and I started talking. We went into overdrive, and I would maybe say panic mode. And at that point, we found out that there was this 2-day course for kids with special needs. And so we started asking, well, I don't know if asking is the right word, begging, pleading with our state program director, Bridget Gardner, and ask her for support to go to the safe travel course. So the following year, we were on a plane, and we attended the 2-day training course, and that began the second part of our adventure together. So as you know, once you start looking in cars, you can't stop. And here's some of the examples of things that we found. And, you know, as we all know, kids without disabilities or special needs can often have challenges in positionings. But when you're working with children who have additional challenges, it's even more complex. And what we saw were a lot of children positioned in seats that were way too small for them because the parents didn't know how to position them. They would recline the seats back. We had teenagers in, you know, conventional seats that they had way outgrown. And so we had a lot of fun times. Ashley and I spent a lot of time on the phone together, FaceTiming each other, phoning friends, so that we could start to begin to help these families. So, you know, parents worry about positioning because they don't know what to do.
Okay, so as Danielle mentioned, a really crucial effort for us has been with the Louisiana Passenger Safety Task Force has really been crucial, helping us develop special needs throughout the state of Louisiana. We partner with them and they help promote, they help fund anything that we're doing with special needs courses. They help us connect with child passenger safety technicians throughout the state. They help us keep track of all of our special needs techs. We have a really great team of CPSTs and those that are trained in special needs. And then they also offer like a statewide annual update for all of our CPSTs. And so we're typically able to promote awareness at that update in special needs and some type of breakout session, which is something that we actually have coming up here soon. So initially, you know, Danielle mentioned we were assistants for the course Safe Travel for All Children through the National Center. The one and only Tammy Franks served as our mentor and lead instructor for many, many years. The task force helped us bring this course. We initially did it every other year. So Tammy finally said that her baby birds were ready to fly on their own. And Danielle and I became instructors of this curriculum in 2018. And routinely, we collaborate with the National Center. They are our all-knowing resource, and we are very grateful for them. This picture is a picture of us with Dr. O'Neill, actually. We helped him. We were invited by him to help at his presentation at the AAP conference that was held in 2019 in Louisiana. And we were very, very excited to be able to showcase and advocate for safe travel for children with special needs to some of our local providers within our state. So just another example of how we are always collaborating. So some of you may know, Danielle and I always get confused, right? So maybe we look alike, I don't know. So Dashley was born. You don't know how many times we get called the wrong name. So eventually we became Dashley. I think Bridget actually coined us that name. It was by accident, but then it stuck. So this is just some different pictures of all the things that we get into together.
You can tell we spend a lot of time together.
Yes. So when we first started getting involved with special needs, like Danielle mentioned, one of the things that we really spent a lot of time thinking about was like, why don't therapists know about this? Why don't therapists know that there are seats out there? And so before we just started teaching courses, we just wanted to raise awareness. So the task force helped us set up these lunch and learn in services, and we did that across the state. So Danielle and I are very vocal down here in Louisiana, the southern part of the state, but we really felt like that clinics and other therapists in the northern part of our state really had no idea. And so we spent a good bit of time just traveling throughout the state of Louisiana and just finding certain therapy clinics that would let us come talk to them. And we just show them pictures. And it wasn't like a, you know, this is, this seat is what you use for this kind of kid. It was really just like a, hey, look, this is out there, just to really promote awareness. So once we started teaching the classes, we kind of coordinate a lot of times with Bridget and our state classes. So once we offer a state class, a lot of times it's taught in the state standard child passenger safety class. Like we do offer this special needs course if you're interested. Danielle and I typically teach every other year. I think that's on my next slide, actually. Oh, sorry.
I always put those in for her. She loves them.
So we typically alternate. Now we're still teaching a special needs class usually every other year, but then we were getting a lot of feedback from providers and from therapists, medical professionals that were taking our course, like, okay, the course is really great. And then we kind of let them go on their own. And then they had all these issues that would come up. So we use the update as the alternating year to kind of help problem solve through any challenges that they may be having. If they've started programming in their clinic, you know, there's certain barriers that a lot of times, you know, how do we get seats? Or we have this kid that's really challenging, you know, what are your thoughts on this? And Danielle and I really serve as a resource for everyone that we teach, especially throughout our state. We always give our cell phone numbers, like everybody knows who we are as Dashley, and they can always call us, but we really wanted to give an opportunity for us all to get together again. So that's been really, really helpful. We feel in our state just to give a little bit of an extra push. And hey, now we've been doing this for a year. You know, these are our questions. We've also partnered through other grant funding to be able to provide some conventional seats. So most of you probably know that special needs seats are very, very expensive. Most of our kiddos in Louisiana, we're very fortunate that we can get most of them covered through health insurance, but we always want to try to put a kid in a conventional seat first, right? So we always choose conventional, but the thing about conventional is a lot of times insurance companies won't pay for conventional. So if there were this group of kids that we just had in our mind, like these kids would really benefit from a conventional seat, but the families couldn't afford it and insurance wouldn't pay for it. So we partner with Buckle Up for Life through Toyota and Cincinnati Children's. I'm sure many of you are familiar with that program. And we were able to provide conventional seats for kids that had special needs, but didn't necessarily need to move to a special needs seat. We've presented at national therapy conferences. Again, this is really just trying to create awareness amongst pediatric physical therapists about what's available for their kids for safe travel. We've presented on car seats and then also with wheelchairs. We talk a lot in these classes about partnering with CPSTs. You know, a lot of the beef sometimes with therapists is that they don't have the time to devote 4 days out of their work week to go to a class. So we talk a lot to them about if you're not able to go to a class, please partner with a CPST in your area. And if you do in fact order seats, like Danielle mentioned, please find a technician who's trained in special needs to perform the installation so that we don't have these issues that come up a lot where therapists are just delivering car seats to the door with the rep that ordered it. We've done a good bit of school outreach. You know, I don't know how many of you have been on a school bus, especially for kids with special needs. It is sort of a nightmare. And I'm not going to lie, for a good while, we kind of just were like, oh, I don't even want to go on the bus. I don't want to look. But it's really important that school therapists are aware of all of this too. So we did spend some time doing some in-services to school therapists. We were able to get that approved through our board to offer continuing education hours for those therapists. And we educated them about what it should look like on a bus and a wheelchair. Now, then that led to, well, what do we do about these situations? And, there was a lot of feedback like, I don't know that we can really fix all of the issues, but raising awareness is where it starts. So all of this education we like to do, but we do actually have day jobs. For me, I work in the inpatient world at our local children's hospital. And so I am in charge of we get a lot of casted kiddos, trauma, hip dysplasia, those kinds of things, all of the really fun things that I'm always like, I don't know how to fix this. I don't know what kind of seat would work. So the special needs seats that I am most familiar with are the ones for these types of kiddos. 90% of my staff are child passenger safety technicians, and all of them have had special needs training. So in the hospital setting, we receive a therapy consult from the physician once a child has either been in a trauma. You can see this first picture is a kiddo in a halo. The second kiddo, this picture is a kid that had a spica cast placed, or an A-frame cast actually in this situation, and she needed one seat to be able to ride in the school bus, and then one different solution for their home van. So we do a therapy evaluation, we assess the needs, we have a special needs loaner program. We do a lot of conventional seats also for kiddos that just don't have a seat for discharge.
Okay, so my day job, I work at the outpatient pediatric clinic. So it's really nice when Ashley has children that are in the hospital and she identifies the need, she can refer them to my clinic. I receive referrals from out the entire state. And as we go around and we teach and we try to support therapists, we're always trying to get people to develop comprehensive programs. But as you know, it's very scary and you need to have mentors. And so even though there are some programs that are starting to develop and we want to continue to foster this, I still get referrals from like the entire state. And it's really unfortunate that people have to travel, but typically once they get there, they realize why, because I talked to them for about 2 hours with more information than they ever wanted to know about car seats. So I've also developed relationships with the vendors, the ATPs, because I found that a lot of them were ordering seats for kids without any training. They were installing them, or they were dropping them off at the door and relying on someone else to install them. I also found a lot of therapists who thought that, we're proud sometimes, like, I can do this, I'm a therapist, I can figure out what seat this child needs. And, my answer to them would be, yeah, you might be able to put a child in a seat and look at their positioning, but you really also have to consider all the other factors. As we know, the compatibility with the vehicle, that's even a bigger challenge with some of these larger seats. So I have a lot of people now that used to try to do it on their own and ask questions, that they just send the referrals to me. And the good thing about our clinic now, and everywhere is different, even if a child is receiving therapy somewhere else, they can come to our clinic. I'm the main therapist that runs it, but we have 3 or 4 therapists in our clinic who are all trained as CPSTs and also in special needs. I have a giant car seat room with lots of parts and pieces of car seats and complete car seats as well. And so I like to show this picture on the left. For those of you who are savvy, this is the very first car seat I ever did. And I remember the child saying she was so comfortable in it, she wanted to go to sleep. What you don't see is Karen Ahmad, who was my mentor, who I made come and do the first 15 seats with me because I was scared to death. And now I've probably done, thousands of them. I do 3, 4, 5, 6, I don't know how many a week. And yes, I'm out there at 2 o'clock in the heat doing it. But I did, you do see, I just have to mention it for those of you who are looking, there is a wedge position behind her back, and I did get permission from the manufacturer to do that. So no one probably noticed it until this point, but I have to mention it. So, and so you can see this kid on the right. The middle picture is not mine, but the one on the right. We see lots of kids with vents and trachs and G-tubes and lots of pieces of medical equipment that warrant specific attention in terms of seating and positioning. So what else do I have here? So I always teach that you should do a comprehensive evaluation program. So in my clinic, when I evaluate a kid, you can go ahead and advance it. I always try them in the mock seat because sometimes we think some seat's going to work and it doesn't work. And then I always go out to the vehicle. And I've learned over the years, if you do all the front work on the end, it's so much easier. You don't want any surprises at installation. So I used to just put it in the seat. Now I put it in the seat. I make sure the seatbelt's not twisted. I make sure it's long enough so that when they do come to get their seat and they've traveled from 3 or 4 hours away, there aren't any vehicle surprises. And that's just some tricks of the trade. So after we try it, we do the order form. And because these large medical seats are considered medical equipment, we have to develop a letter of medical necessity. I just was on the phone 3 times. I had to fight with an insurance company and I finally got a seat approved the other day. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's not. But being educated and knowing what to say really helps. I've had a lot of therapists say, I always get these car seats denied. Well, we call them adaptive transportation systems, even though the insurance knows what they are. And we provide the right justification. And so most often, I should knock on some wood, I don't have any problems and I do get them approved the first time. Once it's there, I tell the parents, I don't care if you live 4 hours away, you will come back to this clinic and I will have you install it and I will assist you in doing it. Again, here's me just assisting the parent, micromanaging everything. I usually climb in the car because it's air conditioned, which is kind of cool, even though I know they shouldn't probably have it on, but sometimes they put the air on for the children. And so I climb inside so that I stay a little bit cool. But if I fill out all my checker forms, and then if they are families that are traveling from far away, I always do follow-up calls. So anyway, I do lots of car seats. And then just a few pictures of before and after. I have thousands of them. You can flip through them real quick just to kind of show you. And there's a little picture of Karen in the back. And we see lots of kids who have autism who are escape artists. I always try conventional seats and some behavior strategies first. But for some of these kids, it's like a game changer if we can keep them secured within their seats. So I could keep talking, but we're not used to talking for 15 minutes.
15
so
minutes,
I'm going to try to be respectful. I think that was right at 15 minutes. So I'm going to be respectful of time and sign off for now. And I look forward to any questions. There we are again. We take lots of pictures.
Thank you, Dashley.
Yeah. Dr. Dashley.
Yes, Dr. Dashley. And last but not least, Kerilee.
All right.
Okay, let me stop sharing. Yes.
Oh, okay.
I don't want to keep looking at
All
us.
right. Okay, got it.
All right. Okay, well, good afternoon. It's nice to be with you today. My name is Kerilee Burton, and I want to share this start with this video for this presentation. Just a moment. All right. Oops. There we go. I am passionate about making sure that children are properly restrained. And as you saw in this video, car seat misuse rates are high, and the majority of those misuses are simple errors. It's important for parents and caregivers to learn how to properly install car seats and boosters so their child is kept safe in the car. So I am preaching to the choir here. That the facts are there. Car crashes are the leading cause of death for children, and they reduce the risk of injury by 71% and death by 28% when compared to just using seatbelts alone. And so in 2015, Primary Children's Hospital, the Utah Highway Safety Office, and Zero Fatalities combined efforts and created a program which we call Safe Seats Save Lives, a daily dose of child safety. And this program was designed specifically for pediatricians and for family practice doctors, or for their offices. Because where do people go to get advice on their children? They go to their pediatrician. And are most doctors experts in child passenger safety? Unfortunately, no. Some are, but unfortunately, most of them are not. That is the job of a CPS technician. So the goal of our program is to educate parents and caregivers on how to properly use car seats. We wanted to see pediatrician offices give out proper information and refer patient families to the correct educational resources. So the Safe Seat, Save Lives outreach campaign was developed to update, inform, encourage, and inspire pediatricians and family practice doctors so they could deliver current information. Being a CPS tech, we've all heard parents say, oh, well, this is what my pediatrician said to do. I can go forward facing because they listen to their pediatrician. And so people listen to who they perceive is the expert on children, and that's pediatricians. So it's important that we educate them and give resources to our pediatricians to pass on to their patients. So let's see, the objectives of this program, we just wanted to identify someone in each practice that could be the one, maybe the one that was passionate about it, who was inspired by our message, and that they could be the person that the rest of the office looked to. And we luckily were able to have some pediatrician offices that went ahead and had somebody trained. And that was not as common. It was my pediatrician's office that definitely got someone trained. So that was nice. But we just hope to find somebody who would be there in the office because the doctor doesn't always have time for that. And then that would be our contact, and we'd work with them to give them proper resources. So the way this was implemented was really cool. We were lucky to have a partner and an advocate with Dr. John Schmidt, who is a leading pediatrician here in Utah. And he also works for Intermountain Healthcare, who's associated with Primary Children's. And so he was able to kind of get us in the door with the local chapter of the Academy, the American Academy of Pediatrics. And many of you on this call may remember Janet Brooks. And so Janet Brooks, who worked at Primary Children's at the time, was the person who led the initial program. And she went to some of the meetings with the local AAP chapter and would let them know about the program, let them know about the resources, and let them know that we will come to the pediatrician office and give a presentation. And so we followed that up with a letter that was sent to all pediatricians in Utah, and they could get resources through us, or they could have us come out. And so they just would call, they'd make an appointment so that we could go visit the offices. And interestingly enough, we ended up there really early in the morning, sometimes in the afternoon for lunch. But just whenever we could get there, we would teach the basic CPS principles, mostly just to get their attention and to say, hey, this is an important thing that you need to pass on to people. And then some people didn't have us come for presentations. Currently, we're back to doing presentations, and we find that that is the most effective, but we still share our resources. So we would actually mail them. We'd mail them resources that they can use or drop them off. So let's talk about the resources, what we use. Now, initially, when we started the program 7 years ago, we had a different poster. We have recently updated it. And so here's a picture of our poster. And this is to put in the waiting room. And, you know, depending on the clinic or the office, we've got some pretty big clinics, then they can have several posters out there that people can have the updated information just to read while they're in the waiting room. We actually have a QR code that takes you to our website on that poster. And then we also have this measuring stick. And interestingly enough, this measuring stick is made from a heavy material. And you may have seen them that we use at checkpoints, that they're stiff and you can hold them up and measure to see how tall a child is. But these particular ones were made out of a heavy material with a glossy surface, and it's basically a heavy duty sticker. And then it would go on the wall in each of the checkup rooms in the practice or the office. And it acts as an actual measuring stick, would make sure that they put it down to the floor so that while the kids are waiting, they could measure themselves and they could see on the measuring stick how long they needed to wait until they got out of a booster. And, you know, some clinics are pretty big and we have them request over 20 of these measuring sticks, and we could roll them up and send them in a box, which made it super nice to do. So some more resources. Now, like I said, Primary Children's, let me just bounce the slide here. Primary Children's, their community health program right now is currently going into clinics, and Primary Children's is part of Intermountain Healthcare, which is a huge organization, especially here in Utah. And so you can imagine how many clinics there are. And so we're able to distribute this program through Intermountain Healthcare, which really helps us. However, the program is for any pediatrician office. We can easily get people interested through Intermountain Healthcare, and that's kind of nice. So we use those. This is another resource that we have. This is a cool flyer. It has everything you've ever wanted to know about boosters. The first page is, when should I put my child in a booster? All the considerations around that. And then the back page, the second page, is when is it okay to take my child out of a booster? And so this is a really good resource that we like to use with Safe Seats, Save Lives as well. This next resource, this is a magnet. And so the backing on it makes it so that people can take it and put it on their fridge. We originally made this for a very specific purpose. We called it our hospital magnet. And so it was designed to give new parents when they leave the hospital. Now this one says Intermountain on it. We distributed these through the Intermountain system to all of the hospitals. And then we also have one where we don't have that logo on that, and we give it to all the other hospitals. So our hope was to get every parent to know it's a thing to get your seat checked. Send them to our website where they can find out where an inspection station is near them. However, we are using this now with Safe Seats, Save Lives. The pediatricians love it because it's something that people keep because of the magnet, and it's got simple information. And so this is something that we're using as well for Safe Seats, Save Lives. Kind of the same situation with this next resource. This is what we have called our law enforcement card. And so it is a trifold, and it folds down to the size of a business card. So you can see on the back side, we have all the misuses listed so that law enforcement could notice the misuse and then speak up. But we also have realized it's great for pediatricians. And so this is a great card that the doctors can use themselves. And I think some of them like to give them away too. So that's a great resource. And let's look here. Our biggest resource, the thing that we want people to be driven to and that they will use, is our website. So our website is clickit.utah.gov. And if you go to that website, you can see under our programs, you can see educational material, and all this material is listed there. And then also Safe Seats, Save Lives, where people can put their name in and say, hey, we are interested in this program. We're interested in you coming. So we just want to encourage medical providers to have their patients go to the website, find the answers, and we have like a frequently asked questions section. in each of the categories, in rear facing only, forward facing, so you can look it up according to how old your child is. So we just ask pediatricians to refer to this often. So the rest of this presentation, which I can see that our time is just about up, I just wanted to give you a little idea of what we present to people, so that you can see what we would let the doctors know or let the staff know. So we always talk about the law, and then these are some of the questions that we bring up, and then we have resources so that people can get their questions answered. So I'm just going to flip through these really quick because our time is just about up. But like, which car seat's the safest? And then we answer that question. And then we talk to them about the labels and things that they should look for there. And talking about lower anchors or installing with the seat belt, and the answer. So I'm just going to flip through these because I know you guys know the answer to all of these, but just gives you an idea of what we do and what we teach. And then in some of these, this presentation, they can use when they go in, the CPS technician who is presenting can use it, or they can just speak from experience, because we find sometimes that's the best way to do it, and then you don't have the setup to always use a PowerPoint. We also have some videos, and I'm looking at time to see if I can I'll just give you an idea. It's such a short video, but this is talking about keeping the straps safe, or keeping them tight. Okay, so there's the answer to that, and the harness slot and the answer, and where should the chest clip be located? So pretty basic stuff. And then should you place a blanket underneath the child? And we have the presenter who's going into the office actually take a baby and take the seat so that they can show these things. And of course, you shouldn't do that. And then when can a child move to a forward-facing seat? And why are booster seats important? Now, on our booster seats, we have these great videos, and I want to save some time for questions, so I'm not going to play them, but we have them on our website, and they're so great. So, and you can just read through those. When can my child use a regular safety or seat belt? So anyway, that just gives you a good idea. And then we have pictures that we provide where people look for the misuse after we've taught them some basic skills, and they go through, and we've got all of these pictures where they can see the misuse and we can talk about it. And we always end sending people to our website so that they can reiterate what they've learned. And that is, I wish I had time to share our website with you, but please go to clickit.utah.gov, and you can see that the public can get information, videos, and find out where they can go. We have a map feature, so they can put in their zip code or their city, and it will just give them the inspection stations that are in the area. So I've enjoyed being with you today and sharing this. And here is my contact information. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. Thank you.
Thank you, Kerilee. We haven't gotten very many questions, but we are running out of time. One for you, Kerilee. Are the materials that are on your website, are those downloadable?
Yes, they are. Not every single one of them are, but a lot of them are. For instance, the trifold, it's kind of hard to have that be downloadable. But our brochures are there, and my contact information is there, so you can contact me and we can help you out.
Great. And a quick question for Dashley. How long is your presentation for school therapists?
I think we did that in an hour. It was
Okay.
a 1-hour presentation.
But I've
Maybe it
also,
was 2.
I've also done like some presentations that were like 4 hours. So it just depends on what they want.
Okay, great. Okay, so we have some closing announcements. And the first one is, so you're not getting off scot-free, even though you didn't ask questions today. We would like you to help us promote the Technician, Instructor, and Team of the Year Awards. So every year, the CPS board presents awards to an instructor, a technician, and a team. They're presented at Lifesavers every year. So we're calling on all of the state CPS coordinators to nominate at least one technician, one instructor, and one team. And we all know that you have them out there that are worthy of this award. The nomination process is easy. And so please help us by promoting the awards. Next slide. And we're also asking for your help in promoting some positions on the National Child Passenger Safety Board that are coming open in 2023. Applications currently are open through September 30th for the Child Passenger Advocate, the Child Passenger Safety Advocate at Risk, Underserved Populations, and the Vehicle Manufacturer Representative. So if one of those describes your work, please consider applying. And also, please help us promote by passing along to others who might be interested. And you can find information about that at the CPS board website. Next slide. And just to give you a picture of upcoming webinars, we've got 3 listed there for upcoming months. And you can find more information about those as well on cpsboard.org/webinars. The webinars are recorded and the recordings are posted to the CPS board site, usually within 1 to 2 days afterwards. And last but not least, here the upcoming topic for July's CPS Coordinators Forum will be Child Passenger Safety Week Planning. So we hope that you can join us for that. And please let us know if there are other topics that you would find helpful. This time is for you to learn and for us to share. So please enter any suggestions you have for upcoming topics in the chat or contact Jess at secretariat@cpsboard.org. Thank you everyone for your time today and the important work you do. One last question. Dr. Joe, we're asked if the presentation that you talked about is available to share.
Sure. In terms of presentation, it's sort of a process, so I'm not quite sure what the questioner wants. Certainly, we're always happy to share our lectures. And I'm happy to share that. But it's a process where we give out the scenarios, we bring everybody together, we go through the seats, we talk about child passenger safety. But sure, we're always happy to work together to try to improve medical education for our young doctors. And it's not just pediatricians, but it could be family medicine. I mean, anybody who takes care of a child should know this.
Okay, awesome. So please feel free to contact our secretariat for, and here we go.
There's my email address. Thank you, Marcia.
There's Joe's email address. And I'm sure you could also rewatch the presentation today and pull it from there if you need to. So with that, we'll let you go back to your important work for today. And thank you for joining us.